Still on the aspect of qualitative and quantitative research, let's dig in a little bit more to understand what are these two data collection approaches. When you are using quantitative approach, your aim is to count things in an attempt to explain what is observed. However, in the case of qualitative, your aim is a complete and detailed description of what is observed. So you are not attempting to count things or quantify things. You are trying to give a detailed and complete description of what is observed. When we look at the purpose, quantitative, the idea is to provide generalization, prediction, causal explanation. In the case of qualitative, we're trying to contextualize, interpret, and understand the perspective of the respondent or the people or the unit of analysis, as the case may be. The tools used include surveys to collect numerical data. Researchers for qualitative may use interviews, focus group discussion, and so on to kind of gather information about the perspective of the people, their own interpretation, their views, and so on. For quantitative, the data is structured, while for qualitative, it's unstructured. Data is in form of number, that is why we call it quantitative, and statistics. For qualitative, it's in form of words, pictures, and objects. So there are wide differences across them, but the essential thing is that each one of them is useful for different circumstances depending on what you are trying to do. What is the aim of your work determines the method of data collection you are going to use. So if you are trying to explain things, explain what you observed by counting with the purpose of doing prediction or causal explanation or generalizability, then go for quantitative research. If you're trying to give a complete and detailed description of what is observed with the aim of trying to contextualize or interpret the perspective of the people or understand the such perspective, then qualitative will be good. And you must have the appropriate method of analysis that can handle unstructured data. If you are using structured data, then various statistical techniques could help you. However, new tools in data analysis and data analytics have been developed to handle unstructured data as well. So samples are usually larger when you are dealing with quantitative compared to when you are dealing with qualitative, because you have to talk to the people, you have to interview them. It might take a very long time, so that limits the number of people you can reach out to, and most of the time the number is non-representative. But for quantitative research, you must look for representative population, and you must try as much as possible to ensure random selection of respondents. So when you use quantitative, you seek precision in collection. When you are using qualitative, individual interpretation of events is important. So you are not going to have precision. If you interview the person again under a different circumstances on another day, you might not have the same response from that person. So that precision is lost. So most of the time you have subjective answers and responses, so they may not be repeatable. But if you talk of quantitative, you are much objective because you have instruments that you can use to actually collect numbers. So as a researcher using quantitative techniques, you're fairly objective because you count, you measure. But when you use qualitative, you are part of the research because you are the one asking the question. The way you ask the question, the structure in which you position the question can change the way your respondent answers or the perspective they present to you. If you go to some people and you ask them questions during an interview, depending on your tone of voice and the way you present yourself, it may totally change what they are willing to give to you in the form of responses. So, analysis for qualitative is usually interpretive. So you collect myriad number of data from different people, a whole lot, which is highly contextual, and you try to interpret it based on the way you see it. This is interpretive. But when you talk about quantitative data collected, you use statistical tools, which is much more objective. So this is a kind of overview of the two different data collection methods, and it is left for you to assess it carefully to see which one fits into the kind of research you are doing. Remember, they are radically different perspectives, but the two can be leveraged. You can combine the two to use in your research. For qualitative, we can look at it as constructivism, while we look at quantitative as positivism. Qualitative, we're talking about words. Quantitative, we're talking about numbers. Qualitative, we are exploring. Quantitative, we are doing confirmatory work. Qualitative, we're doing inductive. Quantitative, we're doing deductive. Qualitative is subjective, whereby quantitative is objective. Qualitative is the real world. Quantitative is more or less like a simulated or laboratory world. Qualitative is reliable because you are getting a full view of what is happening. However, it is not accurate. Quantitative is accurate. Qualitative is engagement with the material, so you are immersed in the research. So your interpretation is what gives the work its life. So different people may interpret the same data differently. However, for quantitative, you are neutral. You are not immersing yourself into the data collection. So these are another way to look at the quantitative and the qualitative method of data collection. So this brings us to the end of the part 2 of the basics of scientific inquiry.